Let me give this a second just to come up to speed. Camera's rolling. Sound rolling. All right. Welcome to the second episode of Milkfed Crime Blotter. I am your host, Dave Slusher, and welcome my co-host this time, Jasper Borgman.
Thank you, Dave. Welcome to you, and thanks for having me on.
All right, tell us a little bit about your background, in podcasting and kind of how you got involved reading Mac Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick and kind of which titles of theirs you read.
Okay, I would love to. Well, I got into podcasting right around when I was living back in Michigan, Detroit area, right around when iTunes did the first update in, what was it, July of 2004 or 5? I can't remember now. You know, right?
2005, yeah.
2005, okay. And then I just started listening to some comic shows, downloaded a bunch of comic shows, several music shows. Didn't find much I liked, but I found Michael Butler's show, Rock and Roll Geek show. And then I was, at the same time, start getting a website started for my business, my screen printing business, and graphic design business, and I wanted a way to promote it. And so I started doing a music podcast, and it was called the Plan 9 Rock Show. It ran for quite a while, and, you and I met at the podcaster convention and spoke at them, and it was good times, and that's that part. And then, I've gone on to do some other stuff, Good Clean Fun with Michael Butler, which was, kind of just a free-for-all, wing it type of podcast, and that was fun. Hopefully we'll do it soon. Maybe had a kid, then that type of extra curricular activity kind of dropped off, as you can probably figure it out. We had some scheduling issues in the last couple of weeks. Moving into comics, I follow writers. That's me. That's the way I approach comics, and that's the way I choose to follow comics. Is if I find a writer I like, then I find the stuff that they like, and then if they put out a new title, then I check it out. I came across Matt Fraction when I started reading old Marvel. I was never a Marvel guy. Mm-hmm. And then I got into I just wanted to read, I don't know why, but I wanted to read some of the Marvel events. So I went back and read I think maybe it was Civil War was the first one I read. I think I skipped House of M was right before it. I did not read that one. Civil War, I liked it a lot, but then what I really liked it because I was reading I downloaded the torrent with all the tie-ins, and I really liked and then that gave me a good feel for Marvel because I had all the tie-ins. So I got to see what everyone else was doing, all the other guys were doing, the guys that had their own books, not just the Civil War proper. But I really, really enjoyed Matt Fraction on Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And it was good. It's just good superhero storytelling. But then, I noticed how quirky he was. When I picked up Hawkeye, I had the first book. I didn't grab the omnibus, which I probably will grab. But so I enjoyed his superhero work, and then I noticed he started doing the creator-owned stuff. I didn't read Sex Criminals just yet, but I grabbed Satellite Sam, and I thought it was a rad. Thought it was great, and but that, and then Kelly Sue. Another thing too. Have you seen the Warren Ellis documentary Chasing Ghosts?
No, I haven't. I think I bought one of the other documentaries from that same company. Is that Sequart? Is that the one who put that out? I think it is.
I pirated it. I pirated it. But
I have the She Makes Comics documentary, which I bought from them, but I haven't watched it yet. I know Kelly Sue was in that one, and I think that they're also the same people that did the Warren Ellis one.
Okay, that's how I found out who Kelly Sue is, mm-hmm. because that documentary, I don't know a lot about Warren Ellis. I mean, I know what he's done, but I don't feel like I'm attracted to the things his writing. Anyways, other writers I'm attracted to big time. Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, probably my two favorite ones that I'll read almost anything they write. Mm-hmm. Somebody else, it took me a while to get into Grant Morrison, but now I love Grant Morrison. So those are just a few of the biggies that I choose to buy their books in a library on the shelf. It's good. Anyways, going back to this Warren Ellis documentary, I I downloaded it, and then I found out about it on previews, and then I watched it. I didn't get through the entire thing just yet, but this was a while ago. Two of the main people who speak in it are Kelly and Matt Fraction, and that's how I found out who she was. And did you know that they met in a Warren Ellis forum on his old website?
Yeah, I did know that.
Okay, well, yeah, that's how they met, and then so I thought that was a funny story, but so that's how she got on my radar, and then after that, like, you know, I read previews every month, so I see what she writes, you know, I see like what people give attention to, like, you know, the Marvel stuff she's done. She did some Ghosts for Dark Horse. She did, you know, what she's doing, Pretty Deadly, and you know, Bitch Planet, which I haven't even checked out, but I love the graphics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
cool. All right, and
too long.
No, yeah, that's fine. And so you're reading Satellite Sam. So are you reading Pretty Deadly as well?
I'm not. Should I?
I like it's kind of a trippy daydream kind of a story. I put that in the class of there's like coming out now. There are multiple series that I'm reading and enjoying, and I would not say that I necessarily understand them. I just kind of I just sort of and both Fraction and Kelly Sue. So Pretty Deadly, I read it. I'm not so sure I could tell you what's happening. It's almost like it feels like reading it feels like a dream, and when you wake up, you're not really sure what just happened. So, you know, it's kind of I feel the same way about reading of Odyssey from Fraction, or some of the stuff that Jonathan Hickman is doing, like Manhattan Projects, you know, or East of West. I read them, I enjoy them. I don't know that I could sit down and really reiterate to you what the plot is, but I still enjoy reading the books anyway. So, yeah, I like Pretty Deadly a lot. I'm looking forward to. I just have the first issue, the number 6, like the first one from the second story arc. I have it, and just picked it up the other day, and I haven't read it yet. But
yeah, I tried to read it on my iPad, the first one. And I feel like my head just wasn't there, so I just I set it down. But I almost feel like that. What you're saying, I feel like that about like some of the stuff I read from Grant Morrison, because like I said, it took me a while, and everyone's like, I guess Invisibles is like his big work, and then I actually like, I'm into it. Like it took me a while to get. Have you read any of that?
I read like 3 or 4 issues out of the middle of Invisibles, which was he had a stint that was like deliberately kind of an homage of Michael Moorcock's Cornelius stuff, which is kind of some of the same stuff that Fraction is riffing on in Casanova, the various Casanova series. So I'm way into that, and I read all those books when I was, you know, in my early or mid-teens, and then I reread them again periodically. So I read that stretch just with that crazy 60s super spy stuff, but I have not read the whole series, and it's been on my radar to do that one day, and I've just never gotten back to it.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another one where I'm like, I kind of just want to see. I feel like he's just jacking off in it, and I want to see what he does next. I just want to see what he does next, and I'm like following it, and it's like, but it doesn't like. It's just not so linear. Like it's not so linear. It's like it's almost more fun to read something that isn't so linear. That you know, you can that there's gonna like okay, well, where is it gonna go with this? There's dropping like breadcrumbs to something like that might be a bigger idea, or it's just him like kind of telling a fragmented story that he doesn't even know what he's gonna do next. So yeah, that's the fun of it too. Another thing, Frank Miller. I didn't mention Frank Miller. I love Frank Miller stuff. Yeah, I think most people do too. But.
Alrighty, so tell you what, let's do a quick rundown. So we're doing this a little bit late. I'm going to do the rundown of what came out from the Milkfed Criminals. I keep saying imprint. It's not really an imprint. It's more of a abstract notion. But what came out under their umbrella? Let's call it.
I've never seen. By the way, I've never seen. Is there like an do they have like a logo that is somewhere that like that is on? Is it all the books that they're put out, like their creator-owned stuff? I don't
know that it's on the books. So let me pull up some satellites. I don't think that it's on the books. But like if you go to Milkfed, I think Milkfed Crime. So like I'm on their mailing list, and it has almost this Illuminati eye in the pyramid with a mustache type graphic that's associated with it. So it's I don't know what you would. I'm kind of struggling with the terminology, even as I have a podcast devoted to it on what exactly it is. It's like a collective of two people, right? More than just them. I would call it a collective, but it's just kind of their thing. So
can I ask you what your relationship with their writing is, or have you established that already on this show?
I did, but like just very briefly, like Iron Man. I want to say like the second or third issue of Fractions run on Iron Man was the first thing of his I ran across. Then I kind of backtracked to some of the other stuff, and somewhere I'm fairly early on in reading him. I met him at a Heroes Con, and he was, he like personally charismatic to the point where like meeting the guy, even in kind of a cattle call con situation, it is an enormously fun experience. He's a pretty magnetic personality.
Speaking of cons, it bothers me like there's so many writers. I follow writers, and there's like so many writers that do not do cons. So it's I don't know. It's not fun for me to go to them, even like to meet the talent. I mean, I don't know. Recently we had one. It was a small one where Jock and Francesco or whatever, Francesco Francavilla was there, and so I had them sign like some stuff that I have, but I mean, yeah, it's just like I follow writers. I don't follow artists at all, but yeah, but it's strange. Like some of these bigger, of course, the bigger cons, they all come out, but yeah, I've never met a writer that like I was really into at a con. I don't think.
Yeah, it was when I met him at. I went to a Heroes Con, which at that point was the first one I had been to in a little while, and once I say my daughter was like a year and a half old. And I did a thing where we did cosplay where I had a kind of a half-ass homemade samurai outfit, and I put contact sheet paper around her stroller so that it looked like a wooden cart, and then she was wearing a little Japanese dress, and we went as Lone Wolf and Cub. And the person in the whole con most into that, including people I knew personally, Matt Fraction was like the person who loved it the most, and we went by and we had like a 5 or 10 minute conversation solely about Lone Wolf and Cub. So,
you know what? I feel like parents, like, because they're like kind of new parents, aren't they?
Not super new. I think their kids are maybe like 4 and 7, something like that.
That's newish. That's new because because I feel like Kelly didn't. She was less active, maybe because she was doing the mom thing. Is that accurate?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I didn't see her pop up until recently. Like I saw her in that documentary, and then I started seeing her name like on a bunch of Marvel stuff. Like but I know what was it? Captain Marvel. That was the big one that got her like some big attention.
I think she was already. I think by the time she had the work that was being published that was catching attention, she was already a mom. So that was in the last. That was across maybe the last 3, maybe it's like 4 years ago when Captain Marvel started. So
yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. All right, so let's do a quick rundown of so like I said, the October releases. We had the Casanova Acedia trade paperback came out in October.
I'm planning on buying all those hardcovers. What about you? I haven't even read it.
Yeah, I have all the Casanova everything. So not the original 2006, 2007 Casanova stuff, but essentially the reprints. I think originally they came out as very thin 16-page comics, and then they redid them a few years later. So I have everything from that point forward in the individual issues, and I'm just kind of a nut for buying issues. I don't know exactly why it is. It's not.
We talked about this.
It doesn't really make economic sense. It's just kind of a thing I do. It's my hobby within the hobby, right? It's filing and dealing with them, and to do this, I ended up pulling all my Satellite Sams out of the bags and boards. And so anyway, so I do have all the Casanova, and so the trade paperback came out. Odyssey number 8 came out in the month of October, as did Sex Criminals number 13, and so that was the Matt Fraction output. And then Kelly Sue had a story in this anthology book that I don't really know much about. I just saw her name in it, called Cartosia Tales, and I can't give any detail about that other than she had a story in it. Then she also had some licensed work. She had Captain Marvel from Marvel came out, and then she had a story, I think, in one of these Prometheus anthologies.
Yeah. Because I kind of want to read that. Are you interested in that at all?
No, not particularly. I didn't see the movie, and I'm not that interested in it. So
okay, yeah, I don't know. I may or may not read it. She wrote one thing that was a one shot. They told what was it? It was a Predator, Alien, and then Prometheus. I think it was Alien versus Predator, and each had 4 parts. And there was like an alpha issue, and then there was an omega issue, like one shots. She wrote one of those one shots. I think it was the omega.
Right. All right, and so she was because. Bitch Planet was between issues, and Pretty Deadly had not kind of returned from its hiatus, so she didn't have any creator-owned work that came out in this time period. So that's the books that came out, and then they did have a few weeks ago, they had a panel discussion signing at Portland Powell City of Books, and it was Kelly Sue and Matt Fraction, Kurt Busiek, Joe Keating, and a few other people, and moderated by Kit Cox, who kind of works with them. And this was notable to me is that I used to work walking distance from there. And Portland was not such a comic city when I lived there. And now all the creators live there. And Floating World Comics, where they have a lot of events, is literally the next building over from the building I used to work in. And none of that stuff was there back when I lived there and worked there. But now not suddenly, but is now Comic Central now that I no longer live in Portland. That always kind of bugged me.
They're all like buddies. They're all on Twitter, like saying, "Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, it's cool. We're awesome. We're friends. When I worked in Chinatown in Portland, I used to have to take the bus. The bus across the river and 20 blocks to get to the comics shop, and literally one of the best comic stores in the country is now right next door. It's like, God, it's my timing. So anyway, yeah, Greg Rocco lives there, So, and then have you read Stumptown, or did you follow his writing at all?
I haven't read much Rucka. No, he kind of there's a group of creators, because I spent most of the 2000s, the early and mid 2000s, away from comics. So there was a group of guys that came up around then that that are extremely popular, that I was not that involved in comics, so I kind of missed their ascent. Bendis is one of those, Rucka is another one of those, and as is Brubaker. I was not following at the point where their stars really rose. Yeah, and so right. I kind of had a different relationship to them than a lot of people do.
Kelly Sue does a tagline on Stumptown #2. It's I have a hardcover. I could probably read it. Thing, if you want to contribute on the story on the podcast. All right, man, continue.
And then just a few things of note. Congratulations to Christian Ward, who is the artist on Odyssey. He was recently married, and I just saw a note that he, I think, just returned from his honeymoon, maybe yesterday or the day before. And December 1st, Tuesday, was Matt Fraction's birthday. So happy birthday. All right, there goes the bell. All right, so that's pretty much the business. Let's get right down to talking about Satellite Sound. So I'm
gonna let you lead, friend, man. Yeah. You lead. I'll follow, because I got the book in front of me, and I think you might have be a better leader here.
You were talking about how you are basically following the writers, and I would say I'm about the same. I'm about 80%. I follow the writers. There are a couple artists that I will kind of seek out and make an effort. And one of the artists that I, at this point, still buying everything that he puts out is Howard Chaykin. And there have been some points where that was kind of tested. And a lot of this dates back to the fact that when I was a teenager, I was maybe 15 when I was really getting into indie comics. That was around the time that the early days of American Flag coming out from First Comics, which just completely blew my mind. As a teenager, back then in those days, as a teenager in Western Kansas, no comic shop for hundreds of miles, and we used to have to get our comics, UPS mail order, in the day when you did the whole thing by the postal mail, because there was no internet to order them. And so we were getting these comics, which were so different and so weird. And so I imprinted on Howard Chaykin's American Flag kind of like a baby duck, right? I had read his work, he read some of his Marvel work. Like, he drew that original Star Wars comic in '77, right?
I was just gonna say, I I download the torrents, guilty. Yeah, no, I clicked on with the Star Wars Omnibus, like the reprinted. I think that came down the pipe one day, and I clicked on it. And I'm like, art, Harwood Chaykin. Oh, right. Really? Okay. Well, don't read the Star Wars comics. So that's kind of interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah, he was one of those guys where he just did a lot of stuff like that, and then somewhere in the early '80s, as you had Pacific and Eclipse and First and these indie comics coming along. He was one of the ones who really kind of excelled and shone when you put him in that environment. So I've always loved Chaykin. And so I was buying, when I came back to, it would be, I want to say 2009, when I resumed having a pull box, and being a guy who would go into the comic shop every week or two. And so I've more or less bought every Chaykin thing that has come out since then. There have been points, like some of the ones like the Rawhide Kid, and there was a stretch where he was, it was like the art that I was used to, but this like extremely bulbous head period that he had, and that where I was considering, not buying everything on site. But
was that like in the '90s when everything was, misshapen, like the hand, whatever?
No, that was recently. That was 2011.
Okay.
his work in particular, he had a stretch where I just really, I was digging it a little less. Now, one of the things about Satellite Sam is, for me, it does, especially kind of the way the art looks, is it actually, to me, looks a lot like the American flag art. Now, even though American flag was color and it was set in the future on Mars, and this is 1950s period black and white stuff, kind of the rendering and the way he uses all the dots and back then it was a physical zipatone that he would cut out and put on the art, and now I'm sure it's a Photoshop filter or something. But it just, in a lot of ways, it has the same feel of what really got me excited about that. So I was into, so the combination of Chaykin and Fraction, sight unseen, made this a must-buy book for me. So, before I saw the first issue, I just, saw the hint of it in previews, and that was enough to sell me on it. And then, so I pick up, the first issue and start reading it. And I don't even know that I knew much about what the book was about before I started reading it. And then, I find out that it's set in, 1951, early days of television, New York, in that era when, that most of the TV was live, because it was, they didn't have the infrastructure yet to tape and replay. So, basically things were staged like plays. And I've always been fascinated with this period, right? And one of the things about that time and that place is, to me, there's a great power in that era when a medium is new and nobody is quite sure what to do with it, and they're kind of learning on the fly and figuring it out, and they basically take the previous media that they're familiar with and they bring as much of that as they can, and then they start to figure out what's new and different about it. And so this is like just that period, and so you and I were both involved in the early days of podcasting.
Yeah, that came to mind as you just said, like what you just said. Yeah, right.
It had that same feel. So in 1951, the rules were being established, and people were kind of basically setting up the tropes and the standards that everybody, basically the visual, vocabulary that everybody works off now. They had to find their way into that, right? And so you had things like the show within this comic, the Satellite Sam show, and all its contemporaneous shows like that were basically staged like plays, plays with a couple cameras set around.
Well, now since you seem to know like the timeline of, when television was all live, I mean, they touch on this in the story, they're like, talking about, their network, their network is going to be huge. This show is going to be huge, and they're the only ones that have this certain kind of camera that's never been introduced. And and so they dig deep, like in that part. If you are a person that like can appreciate that or knows that, then that's like, you're probably like, oh yeah, I know that year. I don't know that year. I guess you do. Like, but yeah, I love that. I love the part of this because I love media as well, and I love, old sci-fi and, noir and, stuff like that. the old TV shows, you know, like I Love Lucy's and whatnot. Yeah, the stuff when the stuff was live. But I just like this comic, just the way it starts out. It reminds me of I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but it really reminds me of 6 Feet Under. Mm-hmm. Did you watch that show?
Just a random show here and there, probably always when I was in hotel rooms, because I don't think I've had HBO for I didn't have HBO in that time period, so I'd see an episode here and there if I was traveling, and that would be it.
I would be really surprised. There's a part of this book. Actually, it's the part of this book. It's the plot of this book. I would be really surprised if Matt Fraction didn't borrow this idea from 6 Feet Under. There's an episode of 6 Feet Under where, like, okay, do you know the premise of the show?
Just very broadly, yeah.
Okay, well, it's okay. You probably know that it happens at a morgue. You probably know that it's a family that runs it. What happens is the dad dies. Mm-hmm. So the children and the mother are left to figure out what to do with the family business and how to run it and things like that. And then there's flashes of the dad talking to the kid, like, saying, mm-hmm. you know, son, you know, you let me down, like things like that. But there's an episode where I guess like the dad did a lot of favors, like as far as like getting like a like a mechanic would do him a solid, and he would like like a landlord, you know, like let him have this room for free. And it was just this room that he used to go visit. And it's like the room that like they found in the book. Mm. And and when they when they show a room, it's just like got like a record player in it, it's got a bed, and it's almost got like, you know, cameras and shit like that's in this book. And they're like, the sons go there and they're like, Dad, what the fuck were you doing up here? You know? And it's just like this book is set up. And when I saw, because the first issue of this is great. And I wanted to buy the hardcover too, like, because the hardcover it, like spans like 15 issues. And I love that about writers. When they're done telling their story, like I love it when a writer just knows when to stop telling a story. Mm-hmm. Because that's the best, man. It's like, okay, that's so great. You know, I listened to Scott Snyder on Kevin Smith's podcast, and he goes, yeah, you know, Batman, I feel like it's such a big responsibility to tell this, to like, you know, to write Batman. And I'm guaranteeing you, when I'm done, when I have nothing more, when I don't have a good Batman story to tell, I'm going to stop like writing this comic. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, I guess I caught wind that I don't know what's going on with Batman, but the plot of the story is Commissioner Gordon is walking around in a Batman suit fighting crime as Batman. I think you should have dropped the title. But anyways, okay, that's the side, and that's not what we're talking about here. But anyways, no, I feel like this is a direct, like, I feel like he probably saw that 6 Feet Under episode.
Well, maybe it may be that they both have similar inspirations, because, and I forgot to disclaim this up top, but which should probably be apparent to people, is that this is completely spoiler filled for the first 5 issues, the first trade of Satellite Sam. So if you don't want to know, this would be your time to bail. But
yeah, we're talking about it, man. It's gonna all come out, you know, hopefully. I mean, yeah, I want because I want to know what you think about it, you know.
There's a lot of, so once you get into Carlisle White and sort of his whole, so very early on, right? So at the very beginning, you know, like page 2 or page 5 or page 6, they find out that Carlisle is dead, right? So basically, when he doesn't show up for the TV show.
Okay, wait. You got to set this up a little better, friend. That first issue is great because you don't know what's happening at all. I mean, that's what hooks you in. That first issue, that first issue is so good. It is so good because at the end, you know, it introduces like the people. And they're all like, it's live television, and they're all like, they're at a point where they're ad-libbing lines, and they're trying to figure out, okay, the main character is not here, what's going on? And then the son works at the station, but he's a doofus. Everyone's making fun of him. They think he's an idiot. You know, he's the guy that changes light bulbs. He's changing a light bulb. You know, where is Mike? Was his name Mike?
Mike, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where's Mike? Oh, that idiot. You know, like, you know, but and then it gets to the point where the girl who knows everything, you know, the dark-haired girl, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Libby.
Yeah, I like her. Yeah, she goes, okay, I know he's here, and I'm gonna find him, and she finds him dead, you know, and then that's when, you know, she broadcast the news that, hey, we have to figure something out because he is not going to be in this episode. So they're ad-libbing lines and it looks really horrible. And then they go, kid, can you fit in your dad's suit and look like your dad and just say a line, and then what does he say? How do they work that in? I traveled through time and came back.
Some statement about finding the fountain of youth, I believe.
Yes.
Right. So he just wants to kind of basically representing that he's the same character who has been, de-aged from some sort of alien fountain of youth or something, which, so they've got that whole sequence. So my favorite part of that whole sequence is the part where Libby is leaving the station to go get him, and there's a clock inset in the panels as you watch her basically walking a couple blocks down New York to this flop apartment that he keeps, which apparently Libby knows all about, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because she knows exactly where to look for him when he doesn't show up for the show. So like you say, she's the one who knows everything. She knows everything public. She knows everything private. She kind of keeps things going. And so that was kind of my favorite part, is that really, so you're right. In this first issue, like really, not only does it set up a lot of stuff, so it sets up a lot of characters, because, there's a pretty sizable ensemble cast here, but it also does a great job of kind of tying it down to the urgency and the timing of this live broadcast. It's like, okay, this thing's going, whether we screwed this up or not, it's still going out, regardless. And so, which is, a theme through the entire series, right? Is, come whatever time it is, 3:45 on, every day we're doing this show, and that doesn't wait for anything. So, and the other thing too, the thing to note is this was from that like weird time period where you had 15-minute shows. Adult Swim is actually kind of back to that, but that was how it came. Like in the early days, shows weren't it didn't have to be 30 minutes or an hour. They were like whatever weird time interval. You could have a 20-minute show or a 10-minute show, so. Yeah,
dude, hey, Netflix is kind of bringing that back. If you watch any of those original series, you'll notice some are 46 minutes, some are 58 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool, it's, not
however long the story needs. So
yeah, just like that. Hey, when can we turn out a good cliffhanger? Let's end it there. You know what I mean? I like that. I really like that.
Right. And so you kind of get introduced to what will turn out to be kind of a major theme running through the series. But you like, even just the front matter has those pictures of women. And so these kind of 50s women in lingerie, right? So it's basically bookending the book. And so that's when they go into the apartment, the walls are basically covered with that. So the kind of the resonance I got from that was kind of hearkening back to Bob Crane. Did you ever see the movie Autofocus about Bob Crane?
Which that was not with Robin Williams, right? No.
That was Greg Kinnear starred as Bob Crane. So like he was the guy from Hogan's Heroes, but he had this whole.
Okay, I remember that movie, but I did not watch it. No.
Yeah, he had this whole secret life of kind of videotaping himself with women. Even as he's a beloved network sitcom star, he had this kind of kinky, weird life, and he would travel with his video equipment. And so we're talking like 1970 style video equipment, which was, I don't know what it was, like 2-inch tapes and like giant thick tape decks and all kinds of weird stuff. And so I kind of got a lot of that vibe from him, is the beloved TV star who's got this kind of dark secret life, which is then it's not just Carlisle. One of the interesting things about this series is that more or less almost all the characters have some kind of secret life, and it's a recurring kind of theme through the series, is that people have their public persona, and then they're in some way closeted, or they have some kind of secret persona or these secret machinations, and it really kind of goes up and down all the characters and kind of really permeates the story in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in these 6 issues, or 5 issues. I don't know. Excuse me, how many issues this trade is, but it becomes more cluttered as the story goes on, because it's like, how many characters? I mean, they did 15 issues, I guess, like the grand total was. I mean, yeah, I could do with a couple of those, like, you know, like being left out and just like, you know, expanding upon some others, you know, but I like the core of it. The core of it's great. Yeah. I like the flashbacks with, like, you know, when it is the, so the father's name is Carlisle and the son's name is Mike. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, when he's like, you know, telling his son, hey, we're going to take over. I'm going to get, like, you know, oh yeah. What's that part where the other part of the story was, yeah, I got to read all 15 issues, man, where he gets his own set of tapes delivered. And what's the girl's name again? The brunette?
Yeah,
Libby. Yeah. And she knows that he gets his own set of tapes delivered every single time, like, you know, an episode gets produced or gets shot and, like, edited. He gets his own set of tapes. And you know, he has a grand plan to compete with the Le Monde network, which is the Le Monde network shows Satellite Sam.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of those things. So that does come in, I think maybe the last episode or the last issue in this trade. I think maybe that's like right at the end of this story arc is that comes in, where basically what happens, you know, so this is what happens when you have somebody who have their whole shadow life is when they die, the shadow life keeps going. And so he's got this thing. So like what happened back then is there was limited ability for real-time transmission, right? You didn't have the information infrastructure that we did. So a lot of times, so the West Coast a lot of times would be on a delay where they would have to physically transport the kinescopes there. So that's what would be. There would be. It was like a, you know, like if you look back at, you know, very early TV shows and they have that janky, kind of washed out black and white look. You know, that was just the state of the art of what they could do at that time. And so the kinescopes that were being made for transmission to the West Coast, he was basically forking this off and having one more copy made and delivered to himself by that company. And nobody else knew about this. In fact, Libby didn't know about this. So it was, if you think about it, she knew about his, that's like his most intimate secret then, because Libby knows about his sex den. She does not know about the second set of tapes.
Okay, let's talk about the sex den. Okay. There's like he's like what Jake is drawing, like pictures of dildos everywhere. It's like this, like it's the thing you do not want to walk in on. It's like, you know, it's like worse than a murder scene. The way they presented it, it's like, you know, he's just is dead, but in this room he like died in, like it's like there's just dildos everywhere. There's double dildo. I was like, I reread it and I was just like looking at the stuff even more. It was just like, it's great. I like the core story, you know, more than like the ancillary stuff that they you know, started like, you know, touching on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, a large portion of Mike's story is just an Oedipal nightmare, right? With this whole, basically with him, you know, having sex with some of the same women that, you know, that his dad did.
Yeah.
Just, you know, at one level. So this is like, you can imagine Matt Fraction. Imagine, so Matt Fraction decides he's going to collaborate with Chaykin, or the two of them say, we want to work together. What are we going to do that's going to really be in your wheelhouse? You know, how can we play to the strengths? So that is one aspect of, you know, even as far back as American Flag, but, you know, definitely through Black Kiss and Black Kiss 2. Is that you got
to tell me what American Flag is once you're done, like, you know, okay, maybe making your point and stuff, because I want to know, but I also need to get up for a second, but go ahead. Well,
you know, for that time, it had a lot of, you know, it was pretty sex drenched, you know, for 1983, 1984 when it was coming out. And so, and then Black Kiss was even much more so, you know, extremely explicit for the time. And, you know, so this is kind of stuff that Chaykin is good at and excels at. And so it really is kind of not only playing to his, so not just the sex stuff, but I was reading some of the, you know, the interview materials in the omnibus. And one of the other things about this for Chaykin is that, you know, he was alive and in New York City at this time period, you know, so he was he was that very first generation of kids who would have the television babysitter, who would kind of be sat down in front of the TV while their, the parents did whatever they're going to do. And he said he can remember some of these. He can remember some of these shows, and kind of what it was like. So, in a lot of ways, it's not kind of random that this story is coming out of these guys. It's really, it's really kind of exploring the stuff that, the burrs under their saddle. I think one of the things that makes this a pretty compelling series to me.
Tell me more about American Flag while I'm up.
So American Flag was set in kind of an indeterminate future, and it was, for the time, it was really ahead of its time, because it was really a story of this kind of media-drenched, advertising-drenched, post migration to Mars. Like it was set mostly on Mars, where most people worked for, or everything was provided by this company called Plex, or Plexus, which was basically like the company store for most people, and it had more or less replaced the government, because this company was so overarching, and it was kind of sort of Orwellian, the way things were, and so Reuben Flagg was this. It's been a long time since I read him, so I'm going to be shaky on the specifics. But he was some kind of like marshal. He was both a TV star and a marshal, so it really presaged a lot of the like what our present media landscape is like. But he was writing about it 30 years ago, so in that way it was really prescient stuff. So
who was what publisher was putting that out?
It came out from First Comics. So
okay, I don't know anything. What does First Comics do? Nothing that stuck.
They did a lot of. They were the first, not the first publishers, but they were the publishers of Nexus. They did Nexus and Badger. They picked up a number of They picked up all the Capital books. So there was this kind of period in the early '80s where there was a lot of, so First, Eclipse would have been two of the big players. Around that time. And, a little later into that, Dark Horse started, which is the only one that's still existing out of some of that early crew. Fantagraphics was around in that time.
Okay.
And it's still around. So, anyway, so kind of getting back to Satellite Sam, then once we get into issue 2, it starts out with a flashback, one of those flashbacks you're talking about, where you got Mike and Carlisle talking. While they were in LA, and you begin to see the background of that plot you were talking about, where Carlisle's big plan is to move the entire operation to LA, and and so not only do new production out there, but at that point he's got this whole archive of the whole series that nobody else knows that he has, and he's got this handshake deal with Ginsburg at Le Monde that he. He basically owns the intellectual property, and he can take it wherever he wants. But so you see around this time too, you see that there is not only is there this whole public-private dichotomy, but there's really an enormous amount of political machinations, right?
I was just going to say that word. Yeah, it turns into I guess what you would say is a like with the politics of the business that they are in is, and that's when they start to like dig deeper. But the thing that draws me to it is just the story of the two Carlisles, what was the name? Oh no, I'm sorry. But Carlisle and Mike.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, it's like, I just want to know more. It's like, tell me more, that's the part I want to know. But I kept getting presented with like, introducing that another character is a closeted gay guy, and it's so just stuff like that, it doesn't bother me that he's gay, but it's just like, it just didn't seem like it was important to me to show that, when I wanted to know more about, like, I was just like, what's going to happen? What's good? Like, what's he going to do next? How are they going to find out? Like, I wanted to know more. 'Cause like what they also did they show it? I believe they did show it in this issue, or they left it as a cliffhanger. What's the blonde girl's name?
Kara?
Kara, is she like an evangelist?
She's a
What's that? She's like a televangelist.
As
well as the hottest chick on the show.
Well, yeah, she's a former. She has kind of a shady past.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
In 1951, she has like a tramp stamp in 1951.
Right, and I don't remember if you get that past revealed in this first arc, but at some point I think you find that she was in stag films, and so her kind of conversion is partly due to the past and her baggage that she was bringing to this. So she's yet another one. I mean, she's got her past closeted. You've got a guy who's got his sexuality closeted. You've got Carlisle's whole secret sex life closeted. You've got Ginsburg and his whole political. So he's the one who. So Ginsburg, the guy that owns the Le Mans network, he's the one who is literally political in that he needs the FCC to open up airwaves, and allow him to get some of that. And so he's. We begin to see in issue 2, we begin to see Ginsburg and his literally political maneuvering with the guys from the FCC, and so it seems like that kind of detracts from you, but I actually like the ensemble. It kind of is like I get from it the same kind of thing I get from The Wire, where you get the interconnectedness of everybody, right? Is you put pressure on this part and you see the ripples, up and down this whole connected chain where the relationships to people may not be obvious, but at first, but after a while, you realize that like everybody, every move everybody is making is affecting everybody else in the chain, and that's the part that fascinates me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's the part where it gets cluttered. Although like there are like half the characters I just want to know more about. Mm-hmm. And then and then many that are like kind of like I said, they're just it's like it's kind of like filler, although it's not. It's important. And did you say you got the omnibus, like the whole thing? And did you read the whole series?
I've read the whole. I mean, I have them all in the issues.
I think I got. You didn't get the omnibus. I'm toying with the idea of getting the hardcover because I do like reading this, and I do want to read all 15 issues, and that's how I usually prefer to get, like, if I like something enough. See, like you said that you collect the the monthlies. I'll say I don't like that word, the floppies. I specifically purchase like the hardcover. If something's good enough, man, I buy it as a hardcover. And like, I like that. I just wait for the deluxe edition to come out. I have like a whole like shelf full of deluxe editions and omnibuses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so they put that out, and so I think I plan to get that.
Yeah. So actually, let me pull this up. This is one of the things that, like you were talking about. So this is, issue 3. There's Kara. You can kind of see her tattoo.
Let's see. Like, wait. I think I have a page. Did I bookmark? Okay. My cat is on the stool that I just moved a book from.
Right.
This is the incriminating photo with the tramp stamp. And this is just like issue 2 deep, right? Because he grabs her. Yeah, right. She's the evangelist. Yeah, no, he grabs her. Yeah, he sees her in one of the photos.
Right. So that's one of the things that I like is, so if you think about it, the whole wall of photos kind of is the engine for this almost like a mystery plot of it's almost got like that fugitive like structure where you've just got another. It's like, all right, let's hunt up all these women. It would actually be a great. It's like My Name Is Earl. It's a kind of gimmick to draw. You can have
hung up all these women. Okay, hung up all these women. Let me see. Is this viewable? Yeah. Okay, that is a line of pictures that is shown when he's jacking off. Mm-hmm. Now, the sound. I've never seen this in a comic book. The sound that is written for jacking off is fip, 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 fip. And then at the end, it's fap, a fap, a fap, a fip, fip, fap, fap. Mm-hmm. It's like the boom or the thoom, like when the boom tube comes, like in Darkseid arrives.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know that the book is just it's got all kinds of sexual stuff in it. So might not be for everybody, but yeah, no, I dug it. It's all kind of off color stuff, and yeah, the 50s too. Another time, it was a different time, and like I liked what I liked they're presenting like in that way too.
Yeah, and we kind of once you get into issue 2 and 3, you kind of get into that story of Eugene, who is one of the engineers at the station, and so it doesn't come out in well, I'm not even going to talk about that part because it doesn't. I'm going to try to not spoil too far ahead, but so he's got this whole bizarre plot where he is at first trying to hook up with this lounge singer. And then later on, he realizes really he just wants to put her on TV, and that would be good enough for him. And so he's got his whole different level of machinations where he's able to make the transition from air to on-air talent. And I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is me just bringing my own baggage to it, but I noticed that like the way that Chaykin draws him, he looks a lot like Ernie Kovacs. Do you know who that is? You familiar with him? He was
I know like he's like the name, and then like what?
Yeah, is
he a sports announcer?
No, he was like this crazy comedian guy in the late 50s.
You like the Cramps, don't you?
Yeah, it was like really bizarre.
They got that song. They got that song on Date with or not Date with Look Mom No Head. That's how Ernie Kovacs died.
Yeah, so he had really like this is pre Monty Python, for American TV, it was really bizarre, like this absurdist, a lot of visual sight gags, and he was like really driving the technology at the time, where he did a lot of things with forced perspective, and which in the late 50s, was fairly radical stuff. And so every time I look at Eugene, I think he looks a lot like Ernie Kovacs. So, I never know. I always assume with these guys that are involved that if you run across stuff like that it may very well be deliberate and not just not just coincidental. So
yeah, like I feel like maybe like this was like a fun. This book had to be a blast for them to do. Mm-hmm. I think it had to be a blast, like because like we just like we're, I mean it's I think it's natural to make comparisons like to, when reviewing stuff, like so it's like I brought up 6 Feet Under and you brought up some other things and Ernie Kovacs, so like it's like that might have been the thing that they've been just waiting to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know that I know Chaykin loves like old jazz, so he's always looking to put as much old jazz reference into anything he can. And so the big chunks of this the Eugene storyline take place in a jazz club. So I'm sure that Chaykin was just dying to get in there and draw what a seedy 50s club looks like. So,
yeah. Actually, that was another part that I was less interested in. I was waiting for them to get to the next part, like, with the main characters and, Kara, like, being part of it. I was just like, I was kind of more into the murder mystery part of it, less than the political part. And that's, I don't want to say the book lost me, but like, it definitely like, cause it I feel like it diluted more and more as it went on. Does that sound accurate? Well,
I mean that your experience is your experience.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of, I find it kind of enhanced the reading because it wasn't so much that. So I think I enjoyed the supporting cast and their kind of antics and more than you did, and so that's one of the things that I like is, that. I think that this is one of those stories that because it's so because all the side stories kind of mirror each other. They mirror each other and they kind of mirror the main story. That in the specifics they aren't the same, but like everyone's kind of doing the same thing, right? Everyone's trying to negotiate themselves a place. They're trying to hide their secret shame, and they're trying to put forward this public self, which may or may not be completely inaccurate, a complete fabrication. And they're trying to basically get their sock puppet in some airtime while their horrible private life, stays secret. And it's more or less everybody's doing that. And that's one of the things that I like is that kind of I don't know what you would call it, but the sort of purity of theme of the fact that it's almost like a fractal, right? Every piece you look at it mirrors the whole. And I like that about the story.
Sure. Have you ever seen the Todd Salone's movie Happiness?
No, I never have. I've heard of it.
Oh man, there's no way I could speak to you about it without you have seen it, because it's one of those. Okay, have you ever seen Magnolia?
Yes.
Okay, it's like that. It's like all the characters are like connected in some way, and it's a great movie. It's so perfect in that way. Although I mean, you just need to see it. I've watched this movie. Every time I've seen Happiness, I've like introduced someone to it. I'm like, you must watch this. And I'm in the room with them. And like, I just want to see their reaction. And because it has like every ounce of like dirtiness and like unsavoriness and like, off coloredness that this book has. Like, it's great. Yeah. And who knows? I mean, that may have influenced the movie as well, or have influenced this book as well. But yeah, you need to see that. You'll probably draw some parallels.
Absolutely. So, kind of as we go through the series, we get so issue 3. We kind of get introduced to a little more of the Karn story. So in 2. Let me say in 3, I think is the one where we kind of get introduced to the weirdness of the Ginsberg Carnes sex triangle, where Ginsberg's wife and so they have basically a dinner party, and the two of them leave for 20 minutes or 25 minutes and come back, where it's fairly clear to everybody what's going on, and it just seems to be kind of accepted and understood in these relationships what's going on, which all this kind of Karn stuff comes back. So when we were talking about the political machinations, we see later on in the series that so this guy who is in charge of the FCC makes his campaign statement that he's running for, I believe he's running for senator. And so Le Monde cuts away. They preempt all their programming to show this, which is at this point Ginsberg beginning to he's basically trying to curry favor by doing things like this for Carnes.
Where are you seeing this part, man? Because I thought that issue 3 was like real focused on Kara.
Well, so issue 3 is where we start to get Carnes and his political ambitions. So 3 so 3 has that dinner party with them. I want to say it's not until issue 4 or 5 where we actually have the political rally that he's doing. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit there, but sure. Yeah, so 3 is a lot. 3 is we kind of see Kara.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking. Yeah, 4 is where the political thing is happening.
Right, and we've got I mixed them up. Yeah, so move to 4.
I'm drinking more, and you're getting things mixed up. So yeah, no, that's where the
right
that's where the political thing happens. Yeah,
but there's we're also introduced to this whole other political thing with the actors, and I'm going to mix up their names.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that part where the one actor.
Hamilton
bitching about not getting enough lines, and like that part's great too. Like
right, so you've even got the actors kind of trying with their political pushing on the writer to get themselves bigger parts, and everybody's pushing on everybody else to get something from them.
Yeah, it just grows. It really does grow and grow and grow. And if you want to stick with it, man, it's damn enjoyable. But it's like it really does just expand. Everything just starts expanding. So it's almost like a Chaikin and Fraction, like because Chaikin had to he's written books. He writes books. So how much of a hand do you think he had in maybe suggesting what might be shown or like talked about between the characters. What kind of relationship do you think they had as like a duo?
I'm gonna guess this is absolutely pure conjecture on my part. I'm gonna guess that probably they basically built the setting together. They kind of worked out kind of the milieu, the time and the place. They probably worked out the characters together, and then I would imagine that Chaykin probably had a reasonably strong hand in the plotting as well. They probably did a lot of that together.
I agree.
Which may not have been as thorough as saying I think this should happen and this should happen. It may just be more as having kind of a wish list of somewhere in here I want this. I'd love to have this, and I'd love to have some of this.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. That sounds kind of spot on. Yeah. Just like, hey, okay, let's do all these things. Let's write them on the board, and just you make this happen, and I'll make this happen, and we're both gonna be like happy, and it's gonna be a cool thing. But yeah, that's so that's when it gets into 4.
Right.
And then where the where the truckload of tapes gets delivered at the end of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then it does grow, like, they just keep expanding on the characters, and it's fine, but like I feel like I connected with all the characters in the beginning, like the group that they had established. Mm-hmm. And when they started adding on to characters, it didn't make me less interested. It just made me want more I wanted more airtime of the or face time, I guess you'd say, of the characters that they had established at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. See, and so one of the things, so your kind of preference for Michael as the character. One of the things actually that I notice is that it's either, I don't know if it's a weakness or just like an artistic tick, but you notice that if you look at his whole career, Chaykin really, like, his protagonists really kind of look alike. Like Ribbon Flag looks a lot like when he was drawing Black Hawk. He looked a lot like Black Hawk, and Michael White basically looks like that. So that's in a weird way, it's almost kind of subverting expectations, right? Is that when you look at this, the first thing you look at and you see Michael White, he looks like the Chaykin protagonist, and your expectation would be that he would be most of it, and then as you get through the story, you realize it's a giant story that he's really a small. You get down to it, he's got a small. The number of panels with Michael in them are small compared to his prominence in the plot, and so it's almost kind of subverting its own expectations, which I think is actually pretty funny and pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a reference for Chaykin like you do, but okay.
So kind of as we go through this, so I really kind of like that B plot. It's what's the other actress? So you got Hamilton. And then the kind of the goofy sidekick guy on Satellite Sam, the two of them are almost like comic relief to this plot of trying to get themselves more lines and more FaceTime on So not only do so they start out by asking nicely to the guy, the writer, if they can get more juice in the story, and then when that's not fruitful, they work out this whole honeypot trap, where they get a guy to blow him, and they're hiding in the closet taking pictures of it, for blackmail purposes. And everything about these guys, they actually, I enjoy their story probably as much or more as any of the side stories, because they're just so goofy. They're almost like the Keystone Cops of this whole thing, which I really kind of enjoy the silliness of their story, when a lot of this is relatively heavy, and these guys are just pure bunglers, and I really enjoy their part.
At some point, the actual show plot disappears, doesn't it?
You talking about the actual production of the show?
Yeah, no, yeah. As far as like what they do on the show, like they're just like kind of like they'll do like a frame of hey we did a show, and then afterwards it's like all the dirty shit that happened afterwards, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like in issue 1, it is very much very much framed around the clock of the show, right? Well, like we were talking about
Sure.
the
Yeah.
lap time. Everything was about the what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And that definitely is not that definitely is downplayed, as time goes on, which may actually make sense, right? Because as the story is about people, trying to get away from Le Monde and trying to get away from that and doing things, essentially, in a weird way, the story is about kind of the birth of modern TV. It's about how you went from this crazy ramshackle setup into what we know. And, and a lot of this story is kind of documented in a weird way, kind of what those birth pains would be like. And, when you think about like anything like this, a lot of how these things get set up is a lot of accidents and a lot of weirdness and a lot of crazy people making weird decisions. And it sticks. And so that's one of the things that I like best about the story is, it's just kind of a tale of this weird walk that everybody walks through, just to make this stuff happen.
Again, man, it's like I'm attracted to writers, so it's like I saw Fraction's name on this, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Satellite Sam, and I don't know. I know he likes music, so it's like, 'cause I like kind of like Telegram Sam by T-Rex, like something like that. I was like, it's like had a nice ring to it, and if it was another writer, I'm sure another writer could have turned out something just as like kind of like enjoyable. But yeah, this was just a pleasant surprise. It was nice. I really liked it, and I thought it came out of left field, and I'm glad he did it. So it was because I mean it's very very much in contrast to the other things I've read that he's done and that I know that he's known for. So and I haven't read Sex Criminals yet. And I want to. I just like I'm not. I just haven't I just haven't dove into it yet. But no, man, this is great. I mean, it was super inspired. It's not like it's not like it was filling a void. I don't think. I mean, but like it was a very original story though.
Mm-hmm. There was a TV show that David Lynch did. It would have been post Twin Peaks. It would have been, I want to say, like mid-90s, maybe 93, 94, called On the Air, which was set in almost exactly the same kind of time period and the same thing, which is, the fourth place, fifth rate network. And it had, Miguel Ferrer and David Landers, who was Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. And I've always kind of loved that show. It's so bizarre. So it had all that. It was David Lynch doing a comedy, and it was all the same kind of stuff. The bizarre stuff that people are doing to get these shows on the air, and in also that same era when, like when you do a commercial, you basically just swivel the camera, and there's somebody standing there, with a bowl of dog food. It was all done live. It was all done in real time. It was, kind of crazy to think about, but that was what they had to work with at the time. So I love all these kinds of stories.
Yeah, I guess are we getting off on? Are we concluding this review?
I think so. Yeah. So
okay. Okay. What would you like to say? Because I feel like I said the part that I wanted to say about like concluding it. I liked it. It really did like. I really was pleasantly surprised by what was presented.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely. So this is one of my favorite series that's coming out, and I like. So I think that it's exactly what I would have hoped for, given Fraction and Shaken. Two creators that I really enjoy separately, and then you put them together, and I think they really click in a way. They click in a way together that I don't think you would have ever gotten this kind of work out of them separately. You know what I mean?
And for me personally, I'm gonna like compare this to a movie with subtitles or even a black and white movie. If you like say, hey, what do you want to watch? It won't be I will not choose a movie with subtitles or a black and white movie normally. But you start reading it, man, you forget that that it's a black and white comic, and then it just like everything just is the story that they're presenting. It's fine in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really say that it is a black and white book, but book is in black and white, and it works, and it represents the era too because it's black and white television.
Right. Absolutely.
They didn't like flip flop, which is great too. Like for the continuity of just making it easier to read, like the on air, off air parts.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I enjoyed it, and I want to see the other creator owned stuff. So he's completely off of, he's completely onto creator owned. Is that correct?
As far as I know, once that last issue of Hawkeye came out, I don't think that Fraction has any plans to do any more Marvel stuff.
Okay. Do you have any concluding thoughts about Satellite Sam before we maybe move on to another thing?
I think I pretty much said everything I'm going to say. I like it a lot. I like the way those two guys work together, and and I just like the levels of the story. It's a more complex story than I thought I was getting. When I first got into it, and that's the thing I like about it. So I like the ensemble cast. I like the kind of far-ranging stuff, and I think this is really this is one of those things where I think this is a story that is uniquely tellable in comics. I think both of these guys are kind of at the top of their game, and you couldn't tell this exact story in any other medium. And that's one of the things I like. It's one of the things I really look for in comics is that they're using the strengths of the media they have in front of them, to really tell the story. And I think this is absolutely one of those kinds of stories.
Yeah. Good stuff. So can we take a break and talk more?
Sure.
Okay, great. I will be back in a minute or two. All right, I'm back. Did you pause it or did you just like hang out?
I just hung out. So
Is there like a chat or something happening?
there could be.
Oh, you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So have you read The Fraction Hawkeye?
Yeah, I have.
How much?
Yeah, I read the whole series. Yeah.
The entire thing?
I didn't. Yeah, I read the whole thing. I didn't. So when I met him at Heroes Con, that same con I was telling you about, he was handing out Hawkeye stuff. Like he had little flyers that had a Hawkeye pin button on it and things like that. And I took one of those and said thank you. But I thought, Hawkeye, I just don't care about this character, right? So, so I was not yet at the buy everything on site stage.
And that was after Avengers came out, right?
And that was before the movie.
Okay.
So this would have been 2012. There would have been somewhere.
Weren't they able to get like 36 issues out or something? Like 42 issues maybe or something?
I think 22. Yeah, 22 of that.
No.
Yeah.
No. They got like they were into the 30s, man.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking, now we need to fact check, but
I'm pretty sure 22 was the one that just came out because there was like 6 months or 8 months between issues at one point. So, but yeah, so I was not reading it, and then I was hearing so much buzz about it, and I went back to my comic shop, and really kind of the point where I've got them all was, maybe issue 4 or 5 had just come out, and I looked at my comic shop, and they still had first printings of everything on the shelf. I was like, screw it, I'll just buy everything. So I just bought the whole series, then I read them. I was like, oh my god, this is really, really good.
Yeah, and it was not like, that's the thing. See, I love that you're showing talk about this. Like, yeah, see, when I texted you that one time, you're like, I'm like, will we talk about the superhero stuff? Because that's like the stuff I could probably like really riff on, like, but yeah, no, I like I said, I buy the hardcover, so I bought the first hardcover. I feel like I will buy the omnibus just because it's out there and I liked it enough to, do it. I just hope it's not more of the same, because I did kind of like, I clicked on one of the later issues and it was like he was up against the same threat, which is like dudes in tracksuits. And
it was pretty much through the whole, so the 22 issues were pretty cohesive. They were basically like one long story. Yeah. So, there's no Doctor Doom. There's nothing.
No, and that's not what I was looking for. And I like the part. It almost like weeds out like any kind of person who would be looking for more, like a Doctor Doom, I guess you could say, who says Hawkeye is a member of the Avengers and he's like the world's greatest archer. This is what he does when he's not with the Avengers.
Right.
It's like a slice of life book, and I loved it. I gave it to a friend who, is a superhero guy, and I'm like, dude, read this book. It's great. It's just great, He didn't like. I don't think he got it or appreciated it the same way I did.
Mm-hmm.
But
like, even those kind of moments where he had some of the other characters, like the moment where he's got, he's trying to put it, like, wire all his media center up together, and he's got Tony Stark helping him with it, something like that. I really enjoyed some of the goofier things like that. But
see, that's like layer stuff. See, I just read like that first hardcover, which I think is just 1 through 11 or 1 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I read.
Yeah, I like a lot of. That's another one where I think. So Fraction, I think one of his strengths as a writer is that he really can write to the strengths of the artist that's working with him. And I think that's common across all the work that I see. Like, so David Aja, the story that
is that how it's pronounced? It's not Aja.
I think it's Aja because he's Spanish. I think it's pronounced Aja.
Oh, interesting.
But
Okay, I just thought it was Aja.
it could.
That's also same. That's also
completely wrong. So
that's also me saying jalapeno, like my Polish grandma used to say. Quesadilla.
So he really played to his strengths, just like like on the Odyssey series with Christine Ward. The story that they're telling is really he does a great job of kind of giving people something, giving the artist work to do that they're really good at. It happens here. It happens basically. So I'm reading some of the older stuff. I've got the Marvel Unlimited, and I went back and I was reading some of the Punisher War Journal stuff. And I do notice that back then, I don't think that was. I think he has gotten better at that. So that was like 7-8 years ago, and I think he's doing a much better job, over the last 4 or 5 years of writing for the artist's strengths than he was early going, right? Which kind of makes sense, right? That was the early days of him writing comics. So
yeah, he's a young guy. How old is he? I think he might be either my age or
under 40. I think he's maybe 39, 38.
Jeez. Fuck you, Matt Fraction. I'm 41 at this. I'm 41 right now.
Me, so
what's that?
Yeah, he's like 10 years younger than me. But
how old are you, Dave?
I'm 48.
Okay, well, I'm 41. Yeah, I'm in last July. So I gotta say the month like it matters. No, man. Him and Jeff Johns, yeah, and Scott Snyder. Oh my God, see, yeah, all these young motherfuckers doing awesome, man. It's just like me being in a band,
Mm-hmm.
in a band that I wanted to like take over the world in, and like just see like a fucking Green Day. They're all 22. What the hell, yeah, stuff like that. But no, I'm totally into like I love seeing like I don't know, like so many guys in comics, they get their big break like after they're 45 or something. Like I don't know how old Greg Capullo is. I mean, but he did Spawn for a long time. But if you listen to enough of these comic podcasts, you'll find out, dude, I mean, and even like not even nowadays, but like 15 years ago, you have to eat shit for a long time before you do okay in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's almost like I think it creates better art, honestly, because I'm one of those people who likes to see I like to see what's going on in the world, and I like to see it reflect what's being presented in art, and I like to see that it's like actually either if people are being pissed off and it's creating better art, or if people are being like too comfy and it's creating better art, or if people are just uncomfortable in their own skin, or or whatever situation they might be in, and it's like making them create something that is like an FU against something else. And I love that, about just from, being a musician and from analyzing that creative process. I love seeing that, and, kind of trying to tune into where things what might inspire people to do what they do, and get a response. So I don't know. It's just I don't know. You just, well, I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to this, or should I do a monologue?
No, I don't have much to add to that. So
really, okay, all right, well, okay. No, but no, there's that. So I guess to summarize it, music is boring. So we'll say that. And then, but I feel like I was saying, how comics guys have to eat shit for a long time. I feel like that drives them to just be so good, there are a lot of guys that are young guys, and they're doing such cool stuff, that and they're not making money yet, but they will be, they probably will, but a guy like Howard Chaykin, who's established, I don't know if he's making a lot of money, but I mean, he at least saw saw a lot, and he saw both sides. If he's doing Image stuff and he was doing Marvel stuff, and he chose which one he liked the better. He chose to be happy, or he chose to, who knows, but
I think he's kind of doing all of it simultaneously. So.
That's what I mean, but that's awesome. That like excites me, like just to the behind the scenes stuff of these guys, because everyone's an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone chooses what their position will be, whether it be like a Bendis, like how Kirkman called him out. Do you remember that?
I remember that it happened. I don't think I've ever seen this manifesto thing that.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, he did the manifesto. He did the manifesto when he got I guess he got hired on as a C something O at Image. Mm-hmm. He did a manifesto, and he said that there is no Bendis. His words were, "There is no Bendis deal at Marvel." So Bendis is extremely vocal and responded in every way possible on podcasts and maybe in blogs, but they went face to face at the convention at San Diego. Mm-hmm. And it was great, I mean, it's just cool to see nerds go up against one another in that way, because that's not what they do. And I don't know that much about Kirkman, but I walked away thinking that he's a likable enough dude. And and I learned a lot about Bendis, and I've read a lot of his stuff since. So it made me it I don't know. It made me more aware about both those guys, and more interested about both in checking out both of their stuff. Mm-hmm. Bendis is really good, dude. What do you think about Bendis?
I tell you the stuff that I've read of his. So I haven't read a whole huge amount of Bendis, but for example, I read his. I'm reading his Iron Man right now, and I read that run he did on Moon Knight. And I was in Moon Knight in particular. So it was a 12-issue run that had about 2 issues worth of story in it. Okay. So it was extremely slow moving, to the point where, if I recall correctly, there was a phone call that took 5 pages. One character is on the phone with someone. So it's just one character walking down the hall talking, and it was 5 pages long. And I thought, oh my. It's definitely a different pace of storytelling. So I'm not the hugest Bendis fan, and to be honest, I'm not. I am not enjoying this his run of Iron Man nearly as much as I enjoyed Fractions. I thought Fractions, and I've been reading Iron Man since I was 10 years old.
Well, I had no idea. Excuse me. I had no idea he was even doing Iron Man. What? So Kieran Gillen, what do you know about him? Were you reading his Iron Man?
I read the first couple issues of his, and then I actually dropped it during his run. Okay. So there was a stretch where, as Fraction was leaving books, there was multiple places where Kieran Gillen took over. He took over on X-Men. And so the only reason I read Fraction's run on X-Men, the only reason was for him. And as soon as he, a couple issues after he left, I was done.
There's a thing, man. Fraction got thrown onto a lot of books, and I don't think his heart was either his art. I don't think he had it in him to make him great stories. I don't know. What did you? Okay, so we're talking about Fraction. What did you think of Fear Itself? I didn't read it, but everyone I asked about it said it was not good.
I didn't. So I with every event thing like that for Marvel or DC. I almost never go out of my way to so if I'll read the books I normally read, and I don't I don't go out of my way for anything else. So for Fear Itself, I was reading the main, that was when Fraction was on Thor. So I read that. I was reading Iron Man, and I don't think I read anything else other than those 2 series. And I liked them less than the stories that were happening before and after. So.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, no one said anything good about him, and I'm not a Thor fan. I just can't. I'm not I don't do Thor, and I don't do Cosmic. So it's like Green Lantern or like even like many, I don't know, cosmic, anything cosmic, throw that in that category. I don't do cosmic. My favorite heroes are the street level heroes. Batman, like I'll say Batman, just throw up Batman, Daredevil, and Green Arrow. The guys that don't have powers, But yeah, either it was during Civil War, it was or Civil War, and Dark Reign, which wasn't considered an event, although it had banners on all the books. I downloaded that, and I liked Fraction's storytelling during that. Do you remember that?
That was another one where I didn't, I remember when that was happening, but I didn't go out of my way to get anything.
Yeah.
I've never bought, and the only one of these that I bought the main event title of was Flashpoint. And that was just because Flash is one of the characters I read. And so I was kind of reading the main Flashpoint. But even like Flashpoint, I didn't love that much. Flashpoint and Fear itself were kind of, seemed like they were fairly close in time. And both of them seem like they're trying to get their impact with just sheer body count. It's like, okay, well, however many millions of people are dying in this one. Well, look how many millions are dying in this one. It's like, that's not really what's moving me about these stories.
Yeah, I excuse me. I stopped reading those event books. I just stopped. I don't know. Like I picked my titles, I picked my writers. I don't know. I don't even have a title anymore because, like I said, like if a title switches a writer, I just jump off. Or I don't like, or I move on to like a thing that I have been wanting to read, like I kind of stop. So it's like Fraction jumped off Iron Man. I haven't read Iron Man since.
Yeah, I'm not. I have a lot of fondness for the character, but I'm not loving the. I read the whole Superior Iron Man run, which was okay, but not wonderful.
I really did
like. I'm sorry?
You mean Invincible Iron Man?
No, the Superior, where he was kind of it was the run that immediately preceded this current series. So
okay, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And I liked that Fraction brought kind of a lot of this. He brought kind of a cyberpunk sensibility to it, and that's what I liked about it.
I can't. Yeah, you know what, man? I mean, without me rereading it, I can't put my finger on why I enjoyed that book so much when he was writing it, but I loved it. Like when I read the Civil War. I didn't read Secret War at all, but I just kept reading Iron Man though, and like through Heroic Age when he was like wiping his mind and stuff, when he like erased his mind so he wouldn't get like so
he had that list of all the superheroes in his head.
And in the case of him, like, getting apprehended and like having knowledge, his mind was wiped, and then they told the story of his, like, of his mind getting replaced, during, I think that was during Heroic Age. And it was only like a 5-issue, that was only a 5-issue story. It wasn't very exciting, but it was a 5-issue story. I think that was like when they were trying to bring some positivity back into like comics. But no, I'm not a Marvel guy, man. And I like gave DC a lot of chances with the event stuff. And that was back when I was buying the monthly stuff, and I just stopped. And now I just buy the hardcovers. I buy the Batman stuff. I buy, when my writers are writing other things. Dude, Ruck is doing Image is producing some awesome shit right now. It seems like almost all the writers are going to Image.
Yeah, I'm buying more. I'm buying significantly more Image than I am Marvel, and probably more than DC.
I would like to sample more, but it's almost like I don't want to. I don't know. I have enough stuff I'm behind on. I have so much stuff that I'm behind on. Like it's like my favorite writer is Ed Brubaker, and I'm behind on like a lot of titles, and I'm just waiting for those hardcovers to get released so I can read them. And but when a weird one that I did get, like, are we doing the show? I'm okay if we're doing
Yeah.
the show. I don't know if we're not.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, a weird title that I got like turned on to is Southern Bastards. Have you read that?
Yeah, I'm reading it. I love that.
It's so good. It's just like it's not like it's just like fun. It's like, okay, what, the coach in the town is like the cool is like has control over the city. It's like it's almost like Bates Motel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that like Jason Aaron has become one of my guys. So that's why I'm reading the current Thor series, is because he's doing those. So he's one of those writers that I'm definitely. He's not quite at the buy everything on site, but he's approaching there, because everything of his I've looked at, I like.
I can't do Thor, but what else of his have you read? Have you read that Scalped? Didn't he do that? Scalped?
He did do that, and that's one of the ones I would like to get to one day, but I haven't made it back that far.
Have you read?
When it comes to like reading older stuff, there's a greater chance I'm going to read Marvel stuff, because I have that Marvel Unlimited, so I can basically read anything from Marvel of the last 50 years. So it's like I wish there was a DC. I wish DC did exactly the same thing, and then I would go back. I'm reading. I have the whole run of DMZ that I bought from Comixology. And I might conceivably do that for Scalped one day.
Yeah.
It's definitely on my list of things that look.
I just like that. Like, I mean, that Kirkman that Kirkman manifesto. It's like it happened, but like, and it was like a goof. Everyone like I feel like I laughed about it. I thought it was ridiculous. Like that. Like he made like a call to arms. Of sorts. Of creators, but I mean, here we are. Like everyone who's doing an awesome book, like everyone who's doing a great book, on for one of the big two, is now doing books for Image.
Mm-hmm.
My laptop charger is like not responding or something.
All right. Well, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up, because I'm fading quickly. So let's just put a little cap on it. So thank you for participating, Jasper.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for having me. I guess.
All right.
We gotta do this again, man. I don't know if I hope I did okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's great.
I hope you. I mean, okay. Who else would talk to you about this? You got nobody. I don't know. Maybe you have. Maybe you do. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, yeah. No. I appreciate you having me. It was fun. It was. Sorry it took so long to get together, but Thanksgivings and things happen and people come to town, and but here we are. Status quo is back, but Christmas is also back. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being on, and thank you for talking Satellite Sam, and I will catch you again later.
Goodbye.
All right.